You might have seen him in the movie The Secret. He has published over 40 books in 26 different languages.
Spiritual expression really is the mastery of money. You need that. It's part of the game.
And world-renowned specialist in human behavior.
It's the greatest thing in my life to be able to do what I do today. I'm a serial student.
Spent the past 3 decades lecturing on human potentials.
I had a patient that I worked with.
40 years of studying over 29,000 books.
Take us through a few of them.
And because of that, they're not worried about what people think. They're willing to go out there and take a risk.
Every individual lives by a set of priorities.
Okay, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the One Shot Movement podcast, where we dive deep into the stories of entrepreneurs, business people, thought leaders, anyone that's out there making it happen. And we have an incredible guest backed by popular demand, Dr. John Demartini, who was on the show about 2 years ago, around April 2020, and a lot has happened since then. So I'm really excited to have a powerful conversation with him. But he is the number 1 human behavior expert in the world. He's been teaching people for the best part of 50 years. He's taught over hundreds of thousands of people have done his courses and trainings, and he's spoken in stadiums all over the world and has featured and was one of the main experts on the powerful show The Secret. So we're going to have a phenomenal time with Dr. Demartini today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. And I always like to invite every guest to share their story, and we have dived deep into your story before. So maybe just take 1 or 2 minutes just to take the pathway to, if that's possible, with 50 years of what you've done to where we are today.
I had learning difficulties as a child and challenges. I had an arm and leg deformity and a speech impediment and dyslexia and learning problems. Told in first grade I would never be able to read or write or communicate, never amount to thing, never go very far in life. Made it through elementary school only by asking smart kids questions because reading wasn't working. Failed by the time I got to 13 years old, 12 to 13 years old. I dropped out of school, became a street kid from 13 on. Picked up surfing in Texas when I was 9, of all places. Wasn't a surf capital. Decided I wanted to go surfing because I wasn't making it in school. I wanted to go surfing. Hitchhiked to California at 14 and down into Mexico at 14, surfed up and down the Pacific coast. 15, I made it over to Hawaii, and I lived under a bridge and in a park bench and a bathroom and a car, and kept social climbing until I rose to a level of a tent. Nearly died at 17, almost 18 years old, from strychnine cyanide poisoning, and was led to a little class where Paul C. Bragg was speaking. And one night, this man in his presentation inspired me to believe that I might be able to overcome my learning problems and someday become intelligent. That was a catalyst that made me want to go out and see if I could learn to read and try to go back to school. I attempted to do that when I flew to LA and hitchhiked back to Texas, and failed. I passed miraculously this GED test, but when I tried to go to school and junior college, I failed. Almost gave up on the whole idea about being intelligent. And my mom said something to me that re-encouraged me. She said, whether you become a traveling teacher, whether you become a surfer again, or you go on back onto the streets again, I just want to let you know that we're going to love you no matter what, your dad and I. And that really gave me a catalyst. I needed that moment. And I was determined to overcome this learning issue. And I started and dedicated my life to reading a dictionary and memorizing 30 words a day until my vocabulary was strong enough to be able to read and pass school. And then once I did, I never stopped. 18, 20 hours a day, I was just voluminously learning how to read. And now I've been blessed I started getting little students, and it grew to bigger numbers of students, and it grew until it was in the city, the state, the nation, the world. I've now spoken in 172 countries, and we've reached billions of people through media, millions of people live in seminars, and hundreds of thousands of people in workshops. So, if you stay with something and you don't stop on it, you can get somewhere. So I'm blessed. The dream that I had when I was 17, 18, I'm 68 here in a couple of months. I am doing it. So I'm a firm believer that, if you never give up on something, you can actually achieve something you want to do in life. I'm trying my best to help other people do the same.
Such a powerful story. And if you do want to hear the full story, go back to episode 1 with Dr. John Demartini there. But I want to start with one of your absolute expert areas and talk about values. And I feel over the last 2 years, there's been this real big trance that people are living in, and there's been a lot of confusion and people being fed different information, different stories. And for me, my values become amplified over the last 2 years. Do you want to just share what are values and how do they work in the human psyche and human behavior? Because it'd be good to set the scene for some of the questions that I have for you to provide some perspective around that, so people understand that a bit more.
A value is something you value, that's something important to you, something you seek, that you want to fulfill. And so if you perceive you don't have a relationship, you're looking for a relationship. If you perceive you don't have business clients, you look for clients. If you perceive you don't have enough money, you look for money. You perceive you don't have knowledge, you look for knowledge. Whatever you perceive is missing can become important, and most missing, most important. So it's based on your perceptions and your evaluation. Now we went and traced those back. We found out that every time you judge another human being and put them on a pedestal or put them in a pit and exaggerate them and minimize you, or exaggerate you and minimize them, whenever you're too humble or too proud to admit what you see in others inside you, those are disowned parts. And those disowned parts are voids. And those voids want to be filled. And they're only filled by leveling the playing field and loving another individual. We feel empty when we judge. We feel fulfilled when we love. And this is written about it by Empedocles 2,500 years ago. So it's not anything new. It's just been packaged in new words and things along the way. But Aristotle referred to this. So whatever was most missing in life becomes most important. And prioritizing our life according to what's most valuable to us and living by what's most valuable to us gives us the greatest self-worth, the greatest achievement, and activates the most advanced part of the brain to accomplish and fulfill our lives more. So determining what your set of values and priorities in life is a really important thing to do if you want to master your life and have more fulfillment in life. If you're not filling your day with high priority things that are meaningful to you, that inspire you, your day is going to fill up with low priority distractions that aren't. So if you want a fulfilled life and have more resilience and adaptability and expand yourself and make a contribution and be more likely to be in sustainable, fair exchange with people, it's by living by priority that helps that happen. So I'm a very firm believer of helping people determine their values. On my website, I have a value determination process that's free and private to help people do that, and also help them structure their lives according to what's priority to them so they can feel fulfilled in life.
Yeah, and it's really important to, head over to Dr. Demartini's website to actually go and do that. It's a free assessment, I think. And I want to just share a story with you, and you might be able to provide some really good perspective. And for me, I was a global citizen. I traveled 20 weeks a year, 120 different cities, and freedom for me was probably one of my highest values that I actually respected. And through the last 2 years experience being put into lockdown for 300 days in Melbourne, that amplified how much that I valued freedom, and through that experience, Sarah, I felt quite challenged in lots of different areas, not having control over my life, because there was all sorts of things happening around where you can't leave your suburb, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And that was really challenging my world. Effectively, my world was rocked because my freedom felt like it was taken away. it was through many ways, but probably not mentally. But also I found out then that I wanted to know the truth. And then all of a sudden truth started to becoming amplified in my world. And through segregation, I felt that love and connection and humanity all of a sudden become this really important thing. And I wanted to go out and help people. Through that experience, I'd never felt the desire of those three, even though I spoke about it and I valued it through experience, but being locked down like that really did make me challenge me and also make me want that more. You're someone that's traveled around the world. I'm not sure you've been in that sort of amount of lockdown, but can you just add into that and just explain how that all works? And did you even feel that?
Well, I've traveled 20 million miles by plane, by jet. And I've sailed, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of miles. I'm on my ship right now in Edinburgh, Scotland. So I've been traveling most of my life. Since I was 3, I've been traveling. So I have the same, love for travel. But it's all perception. One thing that we have control over is our perception, decisions, and actions in life. So it's not what happens out there. It's how we perceive what we decide to do and how we act upon it. So I had the same thing. I was in Tokyo, Japan, filming for a movie and also doing the breakthrough experience, my signature program that I do, help people break through limitations and things. And I flew to LA. When I hit LA, I was supposed to do a program Wednesday night, Thursday night, Saturday, and Sunday, and then fly to the next city. Well, we went into lockdown that day and they shut down seminars, and everything else. And so I got in there on a Monday night. Tuesday, I found out about lockdown. Wednesday was the first program. By that Wednesday, and 18 hours after we found out we were locked down, I was on Zoom. And some people that were going to come live weren't able to make it, but new people came on. And we really, hustled to try to salvage that experience. And we ended up with people more widespread than we had if we'd have been in the local area. And I went on Zoom. And so then I started to think, okay, I am now a digital Demartini, and I'm now traveling the world by Zoom to every country. Now we have students in every country around the world, over 200 countries. So I'm now reaching people more efficiently traveling the world that way. So whether I'm in my ship, whether I'm flying in the jet, or whether I'm on Zoom, in my mind, I'm traveling the world. So I reframed it. I became inspired by the idea that I could sit one place and actually reach people all over the world and not have to actually get in a jet or whatever. It's just, I could do it. Now, I love doing the jet. I love doing the flying, the sailing. And in the last year, I've been sailing nonstop doing Zoom. So I've been 100 places at least over the last year, at least 100. And I'm still doing seminars. So I just reframed it as the idea that I'm now traveling by Zoom and I'm reaching people in all parts of the world. And sometimes I have people actually show me where they are, so I get to feel like I'm actually sightseeing. And I've just changed it because if I don't, I'm going to feel in my mind trapped, not because I am trapped, but because my mind has got a perception that's trapped. And I found myself doing that and allowing myself to have a new form, a more diversified form of travel, and allowed me to adapt and resilient to whatever was happening until that passed. So I used it to my advantage. And I had the biggest 2 years I ever had during that time, reaching people all over the world and new people I would not have gotten to reach. I was doing a seminar one time and there was a guy in Madagascar listening out, looking over a river with a Wi-Fi system in the middle of friggin' nowhere. And he was in on the seminar. So I would never have reached him if I'd been flying live. So I look at the upsides of the new form, the downsides of the other form, level the playing field, adapt, become resilient, and then use whatever happens as on the way, not in the way.
Yeah, and I understand exactly how that works. I think for me, like the experience, the physical experience of eating out at restaurants overseas and all of that, I think that taken away can't be replaced by Zoom in many ways, even though I did adapt business-wise.
Well, now I just perceived it that I'm now ordering from all those places. Now in my situation on the ship, I have 6 restaurants here and they make whatever I want, but I just decide what I want. But when I was doing that, I was just ordering from locations and traveling to different restaurants that way. So I just changed the perception. I would rather be able to go live at times, but at the same time, if I know I can push my way through and get my outcome, I push through. If I don't, and I realize, okay, there's not much I'm going to do right now, now I reframe. I'm a firm believer of either pushing through or reframing, one of the two, but don't sit there and be upset about it. I don't find that productive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess while we're on that, you talk about the three things you can control: perceptions, decisions, actions. And you don't know what you don't know. And for entrepreneurship, for someone like myself, I've been studying from people like yourself and that for a long time. So I quite understand that. But over the last couple of years, there's been this nearly indoctrination of media and lots of things where a lot of people have been stuck in the trance, a deer in the headlights of that. And they might not be able to do the thing that you're talking about, change their perception or even understand how to do that. And we've seen this wave of people that are living in fear and living in, challenge and so on. So how do we get people to understand that change your perception, change your reality?
Well, as Gandhi said very clearly, I don't waste my time on newspapers and TV because that's social media. That form of social media is usually subjectively biased, highly polarized, sensational, sometimes propaganda. So I don't waste my time on it. The only time I'm watching TV is if I'm on it, making sure I say something that's as intelligent as I can on there. Other than that, I don't put much energy on that. What I do is I read the greatest ideas from the greatest minds from around the world and fill my mind with things that I know will help me advance my contribution to the world. And I focused on priority and asked myself, what is the highest priority thing I can be doing right now? Do I want to get sensated and distracted by people with biased interpretations of reality? Or do I want to get and focus on what's objectively out there and educate myself on what's true? And I found that was much more inspiring. So I'm not a victim of the social media because I don't need to. I'm on social media, but I don't watch social media. And I know that seems contradictory, but it's not. I don't want to distract myself by the massive number of people that are going to want to vie for attention and give sensational, emotional opinions and things. I want to go to objective information and get to the objective information and focus on what's priority, something I have control over. If I don't have control over it, why would I put my energy into it? I'm interested in something that I can do that I know will make a contribution and to be of service to people that's unquestionable. And as long as I fill my day with high priority actions like that, I'm not distracted by those things and I'm not sensitive, I'm not emotional, and I'm not fantasizing and fearing. I'm just focusing on what's meaningful. And I get way more done. And I don't find, at the end of the day, I feel like I accomplished and I checklist off what I did and I feel like I've made a difference. And I've got documented evidence that I've contributed. And I'm grateful for my day. And I feel like it's another great day. But I always say, whatever's happening in the day, how do I use that to my advantage? And how do I do it to serve people? And then I turn it into an opportunity. We're not a victim of the world around us unless we choose to give power to all those perceptions that people have. When it comes to COVID, there was tremendous amount of sensationalism going on in all different directions. If I was to dwell on that and focus on that all day long, I wouldn't get anything done that I knew could make a difference in people's lives. So I try to keep to the focus and priority. And I found that was way more. And then the 2 years goes by quick because I'm very, when we're doing something meaningful and productive, time just zips by. So I wasn't affected by COVID like some people.
Yeah. And I guess one of the things, we live in a crazy world as well. And we go through these economic upswings, downswings, GFCs. I've heard you share a pretty powerful story about, getting a mentor for helping you, I guess, invest well, make money well. And you see a lot of people now living in a bit of fear around, I'm worried about my money, I'm worried about paying the mortgage, the gas prices are going up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What would you say to somebody about taking control of their financial future and how that can be impactful for them in their life?
I've studied and been investing for 40 years. And I'm going to make a statement here that's probably going to offend some people, but it's good. Make them think. And that is that if you're poor, it's because you're not caring about humanity. It's a real interesting thing to think about. I did that at a church one time. I was speaking at a church and everybody just went quiet. I said, if you care about human beings, you will find out what their dominant needs are, and you will find a way of directly or indirectly serving them in a fair, sustainable manner, in a more efficient, effective way than somebody else. And if you put your energies on that, you won't stay impoverished. You'll end up wealthy. Because wealth is a measurement, you might say, financial wealth. Now, there's all different types of wealth. There's wealth in having children. There's wealth in having spiritual awareness. There's wealth in intellectual knowledge, intellectual property. There's wealth in all areas, but financial wealth occurs because we're not puffing ourselves up with exaggerated narcissism, projecting down onto people what I think they need, or people, you think they need, and then not meeting their needs. It's not minimizing yourself and sacrificing for them and not meeting your needs. It's finding a way of doing something that inspires you, that you can't wait to get up in the morning and do, that serves people and meets true needs of vast numbers of people. And not small numbers, because that means you have a small caring about humanity, but big numbers because it means you care about humanity and not your own little tribe. And in the process of doing that, if you meet those needs more effectively and put your energy at doing that, there's an abundance of wealth out there for people. There's no limit on the wealth potential we have. So concentrating on that instead of wallowing in the pity party because you're having a frustration because in your hierarchy of values, you want to go and get immediate gratification by buying consumables that depreciate in value. People that get wealthy buy things that go up in value. They buy assets that go up in value, and they defer gratification for long-term objectives. So money works for them. So they're its master instead of its slave. But people who want immediate gratification and not caring about human beings live month to month in paychecks. And that's nothing to do with anything. There's nothing out there. I lived on the streets as a kid. You will not convince me that there's something out there stopping somebody from doing something extraordinary with their life. There isn't. If you want to come up with bullshit excuses like that, well, then you're going to hold yourself back in life. But I started from the streets, and I live on the biggest yacht on the planet right now. So there's no way you're going to tell me you can't do it. It has everything to do with you caring about humanity and doing a sustainable, fair exchange in a more efficient, effective way than somebody else. And that doesn't take genius. All it takes is caring, really, truly wanting to make a difference in people's lives. You do that, and your finances are going to change. So right now with COVID, the market changes. What was once sellable, now something else. So you need to find out what that is, and you have to meet that need. I had to adapt. Right? People didn't want to fly somewhere and go meet me at a live seminar. Okay, and they couldn't. So what's plan B? We went to plan B. We started doing change in marketing, change in internet, change in that. We started to find out what the search engines were looking for. What are people needing right now? And providing that and giving them leads and contacts to help people get more effective. And more people would then want to know what we're doing and offer value. If we're not offering a value, you can't expect money. Money is a reflection of the value and services rendered to another human being. So, wealth has always been in the hands of the people who serve vast numbers of people. I ask people, name a billionaire, and I guarantee you they got a company that's serving vast numbers of people. And people have this idea, well, I don't want to, that's capitalism or whatever. Not necessarily capitalism, but if you're in a free market, you can care about some human being and you go out there and do it more effective and efficiently as somebody else, you're going to get to market needs. And what that's going to do is force other people to get more efficient and effective and care more about people. So it's got its upsides too. And I've been told that, there's people out there oppressing me. I haven't run into them. I haven't seen oppressors yet. I haven't had anything. I haven't had any country stop me from entering or exiting or doing something or meeting people's needs. I've been to 172 countries. I haven't seen anybody stop me yet from doing something of contribution to that country. So I'm not going to buy into being a victim of history. I'm interested in being a master of destiny. And I started out on the streets, and I used to panhandle for money when I was a kid. So I know and look for, I used to go into diners and look for food left on trays and plates and stuff like that to try to get food. So I know what it's like to have nothing. I also know what it's like to think that the environment around you is causing all that. Absolutely not true. You're capable of doing something extraordinary with your life, no matter what's going on in your life. It's a matter of decision, perception, decision, and action. Take command of those three things.
Do you subscribe to, like, when I've had 150 phenomenal interviews, and I left home when I was 15. I've been financially looking after myself since 17, fired my boss when I was 21 to be a business owner. You know, I've had challenges, as I've mentioned before, and my wife and I, we lost our first son. And do you subscribe to people that have been on the streets or have had a challenging story that is a driver for them to go on to do great things?
I rarely see people do extraordinary things that didn't have some sort of extraordinary story to start with. And that's usually the case. I'm not saying you have to. It doesn't mean you have to go out and kill yourself just to have a drive. But I mean, I've seen it, but I rarely find people that don't have something that was a challenge that made them drive. It's part of the mechanism to push yourself. And some people have mild and some moderate and some more extreme. But I also know people that are extreme that give up in their lives because they are overwhelmed. It's all perception. You know, I've had people that I had a guy, I was in South Africa doing a 702 radio show with Kate Turkington. And all of a sudden a guy calls in who's on the freeway, who's got an exhaust pipe hose into the thing, and he's killing himself. He's ending his life, but he calls in on the radio show. He's about to kill himself. And he's starting to go fading in and out of consciousness. And I'm doing a presentation on depression about, you know, what depression is. It's a comparison of your current reality to a fantasy that you're making for yourself. A fantasy that you want something to happen, but you don't have a strategy to make it happen. And you keep expecting something to happen that's not happening because your strategy is not working. And somehow he perked up and decided to listen to that talk. And he called in. And on the show, I worked him through his issue. And it went over the hour because normally they have news, you know, the announcements and weather, whatever car, you know, and they didn't stop for the news. We went right through the hour on the show because the guy is going to commit suicide. And I worked him through that process and sent two of my students out on the freeway to help him through it and complete it. At 4 a.m, they finished with him. The following day, he was at my seminar and he got a standing ovation because there were 2 million people listening to that radio show. So this guy then went on to do something extraordinary with his life. He wanted to end it one day, change his perception, change his actions, change his destiny. I mean, that's what can happen. And I've had that happen in my life. I've seen it thousands of people's lives. So if you want to sit and run your story and be a victim of your history and wallow in your pity party and trauma drama, then you're not going to go anywhere. Stop the story, get resourceful, find out how whatever's happening, how is it on the way, not in the way. Ask a quality question. How is whatever's happening me helping me fulfill what's most meaningful to me? And get clear about what you value and what's meaningful. And ask, how is it helping and not hindering it? And change your life. We make it complex, but it can be really simple. It's simply the quality of our life is based on the quality of the questions we ask and the quality of the unconsciousness that we make conscious.
What are some questions that people should ask to find that? Like, what were the questions? So if I was talking to someone that's just completely oblivious to having a purpose or anything in life, and they were listening to this, what are some of the questions they should ask in terms of quality questions?
Yeah, number one thing is ask, what is it you do every single day that nobody has to remind you to do, that you spontaneously do, that you love doing? And write that down, whatever that is. And don't lie saying, I don't know, because most people are comparing themselves to other people and thinking, well, I don't have what they have. I don't have what they have. And they're constantly comparing outside instead of looking at their own life and looking at what they spontaneously do. You know, I teach and I research every day. It's like clockwork 7 days a week. I've been doing it 50 years. So I know that my highest value is sharing information and gathering information, and sharing it to help people. But look at what your life demonstrates and don't judge it to somebody else. It may be spending time with your dog. It may be watching a movie. It may be doing something that inspires you, that is in the working in a garden, or it may be cooking or raising a child. Whatever is most important to you, wrap and discover what that is and ask, whatever's happening in your life, how's it helping me fulfill that? And don't say, I don't know, I can't find it. Stop and be accountable and look. And I guarantee you, everything that goes on in your life is a feedback system to guide you back to authenticity, back to what's really authentic and inspiring and meaningful to you. If you see life that way, you're not going to have anything in the way. You're not going to have obstacles in life. You're going to have fuel in life. Because anything you can't say thank you for is baggage. Anything you can say thank you for is fuel in life. And I'm a firm believer of document. I do it every single day. I've got 33 volumes of material, nearly 10,000 pages of thank yous in my life I've got on my computer. I do it every single day. I've already written, thank you for the opportunity to be on your show already. That's already in my book today. So I document everything I get to do, people I get to meet. I got to meet a great performer, a Las Vegas actress and performer last night. And we had a nice conversation. I write it down. I had the opportunity to meet one of the famous singers and actors in the world. And I document all the things I'm grateful for on a daily basis. And when you're grateful for what you got, you get more to be grateful for. That's something I'm certain about. That makes a difference in your life. So start counting all your blessings and look at what you do have instead of focusing on what you don't all the time.
Yeah. And if somebody was struggling to find a purpose or a passion in life, is it simply going back to your values and doing what you're saying, or is there some other strategies? Your highest value
is your purpose. It was called the telos by Aristotle. It's the most meaningful and purposeful thing you can do. Look at what you spontaneously do that nobody has to remind you to do, that's an intrinsic value, and I'll tell you where your purpose is. The problem is that people look at other people, compare themselves to other people, put them on a pedestal, minimize themselves, think their purpose is small, then lie to themselves about what it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I've been doing it. I've been teaching the breakthrough experience for 33 plus years, almost 34 years. And I have every week people lie to me and lie to themselves. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what my purpose is, anything else. And I go ask a series of questions, what specifically you do every single day that nobody has to remind you to do, that you spontaneously do, that you actually love doing. And when I draw that out, they get tears in their eyes. They go, that's it. But they were comparing it and they weren't honoring it. And that's what it is. And they were thinking, well, it's not good enough because it's not this, or it's not good enough because it's not that. And they're putting people on pedestals and minimizing themselves. And therefore they're injecting other people's values and clouding the clarity of what's inspiring to them. So I just bring it out of them, make them see it, get tears in their eyes when they see it. And they go, is that good enough? And I go, is it good enough? I had a woman in London that said, is it good enough to be dedicated to being a mother? And I said, Rose Kennedy, of the Kennedy family, her mission statement, which I actually have a written mission statement by her handwriting I have, it says, I dedicate my life to raising a family of world leaders. Fantastic. What's wrong with being a magnificent mother raising magnificent kids? That's a massive purpose in life. We need that. If we don't have that, we don't have a population. We don't have anybody doing anything in the future. And who's to say your child doesn't do something extraordinary and you've helped that be possible? So people are comparing instead of actually looking at their life and looking what's priority and sticking to priority.
And some people may look at, well, I do have a purpose, I do have a passion, I do have love for it, but they don't see potentially an opportunity to make that their financial future as well. Should you consider, should every passion and purpose have an opportunity to be monetized?
Well, let me just share a funny thing here. First of all, there's 7 questions you want to ask yourself. You might want to, if you're listening here, write these down if you can keep up with it, or get a copy of this. Listen to this again and send it to 1,000 of your friends so that this Craig's work gets out there. But please listen. What is it you would absolutely love to do in life? That's one question you want to ask. What is it you would absolutely love to do in life? How do I get handsomely and beautifully paid to do that? How can I make millions doing that? What are the highest priority action steps I can do today to make that happen? If I do action steps every day, I will build momentum towards achieving it. What obstacles might I run into and how do I solve in advance? How do I have foresight and solve it, mitigate the risk of the obstacles? What worked, what didn't work today? How do I do it more effectively and efficiently tomorrow? And no matter what happened today, how did it help me get one step closer to that objective? You ask those 7 questions, I guarantee you, and answer, be accountable for that every single day for the next 30 days. Watch what happens in your life. It'll change your life. Now, I had a lady that came to my breakthrough experience, my little program I do. I've done it 1,150 times. And she was 29 years old. Her name was Karen. And I asked her that question. This is 30 years ago, almost 29 years ago, 28 years ago or so. I asked her, so what is it you'd absolutely love to do, Karen? And she's a cute little 29-year-old girl. And she goes, I don't know. I said, no. I don't know is not going to get you anywhere in life. If you say, I don't know, you're lying to yourself. What is it you love doing in life? What does your life demonstrate you love doing? What do you do spontaneously? What do you love to do in your life? I love to spend time with my dog. I love being with my dog. I said, great. She says, I have a beautiful little Chihuahua dog named Eli. I said, fantastic. How could you get handsomely and beautifully paid, make millions spending time with your dog? I have no idea. I don't know. It doesn't work. Look, how could you do it? She finally came up. I held her accountable. I said, so how could you become paid handsomely to do that? My dog's really cute. People like to take pictures. I can charge for taking pictures. Okay, you can make him a model then? Yeah, good. What is the highest priority actions that we could do to make that happen? And I made her come up with 7 answers. Well, I could go where people are, go where they're wanting to take pictures, say that there's a fee for that picture. Some will reject it, some will accept it. I mean, she started coming up with a solution. The following, that was Sunday. On Monday, she went and walked in Central Park, because this is in New York. Walked down the Philosopher's Avenue where all the benches are and the big trees are, and walked down to where the fountain is near the Boathouse Lake. And all of a sudden, she was there with a dog. And somebody came up and asked if she could take a picture. Now, this is before iPhone days. This is when you have the little yellow cameras from the drugstore. And somebody asked, the tourist asked if they could take a picture with her. And said, well, actually, that's $5. Oh, well, I said, okay. So they paid $5. So she was walking back with the dog. She made $5. And she goes, to the dog, she says, you paid for your food today. Not bad. So that night she went and sat on the floor in front of a closet, rummaged through the closet and found this little basket, round basket with a top on it, and found some material, this red elastic material and some black elastic strip, and got creative. So she sewed a tube of elastic material that went from his legs, his hind legs to front legs, and sewed a little strap onto his sunglasses and put sunglasses where it would attach to his head, wouldn't fall off, and got this tube around his belly, between his paws, his legs, front and back legs, and then practiced walking him up on his hind legs so people would notice him with the sunglasses and red thing to increase the probability of taking pictures. They thought that might people take a picture because that's a unique looking picture. She got creative. Well, the next day she took him into the park and she had 7 people ask if they could take a picture. And she said, well, it's $5. Well, 4 of them said no, 3 of them said yes. She made $15. So now she's making 15. She's walking back with the dog. She says, you paid for yourself. You paid for your health care and your room and board now. Not bad. So she got more creative. And she started making different outfits that would increase the probability of doing it, and going to stores to get things that make him dress up kind of novel to increase of doing it. She got a card made that she's the agent of this famous dog, made up a story and had some fun with it, got creative, and worked that up to $125. People were lining up to get pictures with him because the more people taking pictures, more people want to get a picture. So she got up to $125. And one day, a guy came up to her and said, I've been watching you and your dog. You've been cleaning up. This is amazing watching this thing you got going. And she said, I'm involved in advertising and marketing. I think I could use your dog in a commercial. So the guy comes up, she hands him her card saying I'm his agent. And he hands a card and they meet and they negotiate a deal. And he became the mascot for Milk-Bone Dog Biscuit, which is a dog biscuit for all the dogs. He became the mascot. He was on every cover of every box of dog biscuits for years. And he became a major thing. And that was $2.2 million. She closed a deal on that one as the mascot. He became then one of the most famous dogs in New York and in Hollywood. Almost every celebrity wanted to get a picture with this dog. She signed 2 other major deals with him as a mascot. She ended up with 3 TV shows, Mommies and Doggies, became an icon, did $100 million worth of business with that dog over the next so many years. And the dog died 8 years later, and she replaced with another dog that looked identical, did another dog that looked identical. And for 20 something years, she kept that thing going and made $100 million out of it and netted $25 million and became financial independent because of those 7 questions. Yeah. So you won't convince me you can't do something. You just got to get creative. And I've got story after story of people that ask new sets of questions, because the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions you ask. You ask new questions, become cognizant of new ways of looking at what your experience is, and you don't become victim of history, you become master of destiny.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking these questions is to really help people right now, because there's a lot of people that seem to be trapped in this perpetual cycle, and we want to give people some strategies and an understanding of, because there's like layers of agendas being piled on top of people. Whether you listen, I've heard you talk about the law, the universal law of the one and the many, and then you look at the macro, maybe there's a perception that there's an infiltration of one world governments, one world religions, one world currencies, and this is like nearly like a global tyranny type of thing being thrown out onto people. Do you subscribe to the law, the universal law of the one controlling the many is related to that at all?
Well, any area of your life you don't govern, somebody else is going to govern. If you don't empower yourself intellectually, you're going to be told what to think. If you don't empower yourself in business, you're going to be told what to do. If you don't empower yourself in finance, you'll be told what you're worth. You don't empower yourself in the relationship, you'll be doing honeydew crap around the house. You don't empower yourself socially, you're going to be told propaganda. You're going to believe social media and mass media, which is foolishness. If you don't empower yourself physically, you'll be told what drug to take and organ remove. And look at all the billions of people that have been taking pharmaceuticals for a biochemical imbalance that's turned out to be false. And if you don't empower yourself spiritually, you'll be told some dogma that's antiquated, it's Aristotelian, some sort of geocentric world. So if you don't empower yourself, you got nobody to blame if you're feeling overpowered. But if you empower yourself, nobody out there is going to rule you. It's you ruling you. And I've met people from governments, and I've heard about all these different conspiracies. I've never found them run my life. They haven't run me in any way. I don't find them affecting my life. I go where I want to go, when I want to go, how I want to go, when I want to go today. So I don't have a problem. I can get a private jet if I want to, or a private this if I want to. There's always a way. So if I am not willing to go and do what it takes to do that, then I got nobody to blame but me. I'm not empowering my life. So I try to teach people how to empower life. So then that out there doesn't affect me. I'd rather impact governments. I always say, if you're not creating a culture, you're going to follow a culture. You're not creating a leadership, you're going to end up a followership. So there is a natural evolution. If we look at the evolution of human beings in anthropology, we can see that they were nomadic. They became kinship, right? Families grew into little kinship, then tribal systems, then townships, and then little cities, and then states, and then nations, and then world. Someday we're going to probably be interplanetary. We're probably going to colonize and be interplanetary. And then this whole world will be one, and then interplanetary systems will be conflicting. And then, so that's inevitable that we're going to do that. Bookstores used to be by the millions of bookstores. Now they're conglomerates. So it's inevitable things are going to integrate over time because that's more efficient. The single-celled bacteria eventually made colonies and eventually made larger multicellular organisms as an evolutionary process. So that's not a bad thing. It's just a matter of where do you want to play in it. You can be subordinate to it and it runs you, or you can be empowered within it and be an entrepreneur working inside the system and use it to your advantage. I use it to my advantage. I don't see it as interfering with me.
Yeah, well said. And, I asked that question to help people, really. I want tens of thousands of people to listen to this and take that, timeless wisdom on board, because it's really, really important in today's climate as well. I always say to people, I love travel because of experience, and I love to turn money into memories. Why do you like travel?
I love going to different places, meeting different people and getting different cultures. But I travel a lot. As you know, I'm on my ship traveling. I've been many, many countries on this ship. And what's interesting is I've actually done a comparison. I've gone in and actually seen the locations, the parks, the museums, the famous places, etc. I've actually been to many of these places. But then I go online and I go on the experience of seeing that same thing online. And believe it or not, there's sometimes I got a better experience online than I did on the actual experience. I've seen both. I've actually taken my own pictures I've taken, and they're not as nice as some of the ones that have been taken already. So some I use from mine and some I use from there because they're greater pictures. So I'm using technology not as a something against me. I'm using it as a way of helping me see the world and supplementing my own experience in the world and putting the two together. I'm using just like a camera, right? I can take an iPhone, I can take a picture. That technology allows me to more efficiently take pictures as I travel. But I can also now go online and I can travel to surrounding areas that I might not have gotten to go to live and see live videos of things and get experiences that help my development. So I'm a firm believer in including all of it. including live experiences, if you can do that, but also the indirect, technologically advanced ways of communicating and reaching and touching people and going places. I'm a firm believer in both of them serve me and allowed me to expedite, because I know I've gone to places live, and I've also gone to places I probably will never get to go live, and I've gone and watched the whole thing live on videos and give me at least the experience I would never probably have. Both have been of value in my traveling.
This podcast is the One Shot Movement podcast. It's all about educating and inspiring people to make the most of their one shot at life. You've certainly been probably one of the biggest names in the world that has done that through your story and experience. What would you say to somebody that to help them make the most of their one shot at life? They're walking around aimlessly at the moment and they need help. What would be a message that you can leave them with?
The same thing I said is find out what your values are. Go on my drdemartini.com and do the value determination process. It's free, it's private. Do that, do it again, because you'll probably lie the first time to yourself. You'll write down social idealism and what you think you should be having as priorities. Look at what your real life demonstrates and start structuring your life by priority. I'm absolutely certain. When I learned how important priority is, filling your day with the highest priority actions, spending your money on the highest priority things that go up in value, spending filling your space with the highest priority items so you don't just fill it with clutter, prioritizing what you have control over: space, time, energy, money, the people you associate with, the books that you read, the things that you feed your mind. If you're going to watch TV, prioritize it. Don't just let anything go into your mind. Put the stuff that's going to help you get what you want in life. It's your life. You got one chance at your life. Might as well do the most out of it by filling it with the most highest priority information you can that's going to give you the greatest advantage to serve the greatest number of people. And your fulfillment level is going to go up. And you have control over all those things. None of those are outside your control. Just because something's on media doesn't mean you have to listen to it. Just because there's people arguing and disputing about this and about that person, that doesn't have to fill my mind. Yesterday, I looked up William James Sidis. He had a 275 IQ. He was a child savant, amazing prodigy. Taught at Rice University at 12 years old in mathematics. Amazing kid, right? So I went and studied his life, how he was raised, what he was doing, what he went out and did, how he was at Harvard and did this. By the time he was 13, he had his degree and everything else. Amazing stuff this kid was doing. And how did he think? What did he do? And I took anything that might allow me to expedite my life, and I took that, and then I shared it with as many people as I can last night. And this morning with a Yale professor, I was sharing the story on him, so he's now looking him up. I did the same thing on Ramanujan, the mathematician. What I want to do is I want to fill my mind with those ideas, those stories, and those experiences, not TV, not all that stuff out there that distracts your mind, but with the highest priority information I can fill my mind with by the people who've done extraordinary things. And you know what happens? I end up doing extraordinary things because of it. You know what? If you hang out with people that do extraordinary things, you're higher in probability of doing extraordinary things with your life. So I'm take command and prioritize what I feed my mind, what I feed my body. I don't put anything in my body that's not going to maximize my performance. I drink vegetable juices. I eat yogurt and fresh fruits and fresh grains and fresh salads and fresh food and nice quality fish. I fill my life. The only thing that goes in this body is something that's going to maximize my performance to make a difference in the world. So you can live intentionally and by design, or you can live by duty and subordination, or you can sit there and be a victim of history. Or you can be a master of destiny. It's purely your decision in life. And you can start right this minute, right now. You can start deciding what's the priority of what you're going to feed your mind, your body. What are you going to do with your time? What are you going to do with your space? Who are you going to have in your space? Who are you going to hang out with? You hang out with people that are going and doing extraordinary things, you increase that probability. You hang out with people that want to bitch and gripe and blame and be victims, you're probably going to go in that direction. Which one do you want? It's your choice. You have that freedom to do that. And I say take command of your life.
Absolutely. And what was the name of the 275 IQ boy?
William James Sidis. William James Sidis, S-I-D-I-S.
Cool.
Young prodigy. Now, his parents put a lot of pressure on him to learn, and he got rewarded for learning. He had 25 languages by the time he was, I think, 12. He had already knew 25 languages. Amazing kid. The value of it is not that I need to go follow his footsteps exactly. The idea that that's what's possible for human beings. I want to know what's possible and how to make it more probable and maximize what I can contribute to the world that way. And boy, there's no lack of fulfillment when you're doing. If you look at your life and make a list of every moment you've had fulfillment in your life that brought you tears of gratitude in your life, I guarantee you, you're going to find out you're doing something that's meaningful that makes a contribution to somebody else's life. Or you're watching a movie or listening to something that's making you think along those lines. If you look really carefully when you've been most fulfilled, it's very evident that that's an important component of human behavior. People that do something that's meaningful, they become philanthropic. And people that don't do things that are meaningful, they become more debaucherous in life. So I'm a firm believer in filling your day with the absolute highest priority thing that can make the biggest difference, to give you the most fulfillment in life. And that's not narcissistic any more than it's altruistic. It's a blend of the two. It's a sustainable, fair exchange where there's an equality between you and humanity. And that allows you to raise the playing field for yourself and also raise the contribution to the world.
Absolutely. And last time you shared a book, it was the synopsis of 150 amazing entrepreneurs. It's on my last episode. Can you remember the name of that book?
Well, I did a book. I've done a number of books. One of them, I just finished a book about a year ago on hundreds of the greatest philosophers, thinkers, scientists, Nobel Prize winners in history, going back all the way to the ancient Greeks. I went into Egypt, I went to China, I went all around the world. The people that have made the biggest contribution, that left their mark, mostly polymathic individuals, Renaissance people, I study their lives, summarize them, look at their teachings, look at what they learned, what they could pass on, and fill my day with that. I love reading that book. I love creating that book. I tell people, go and study the most amazing people that made the biggest difference in life, and just fill your day with that and watch what difference you make in a day. By the end of the day, if you're doing that all day, you're going to be inspired, because you're going, wow, what's possible? You're going to be creatively thinking in ways I could do that I've never thought about. And you're going to be thinking, how can I make a difference? When you hang out with people, there's a guy that lives on the ship here that's got 4,030 patents. He's the most patented individual in the world. He's one of the brightest people in the world. I love having breakfast, lunch, or dinner with that guy, because what it does, when I'm done, I'm thinking new creative ideas every time I talk to him, because he's doing that. He's constantly feeding his mind and surrounding himself with the brightest people on the planet. He's building universities just to fill the brightest people, just so he can get more creativity to make more contributions to more people on the planet. Hanging out with a guy like that is powerful. And you can go online and read about all these people and fill your mind with that information. And people go, well, why would I do that? I just want to have a beer and watch TV. Well, if all you have in life is a beer, watching TV, and want to do entertainment, that's your business. But don't bitch. Don't bitch because life's tough. You're not doing the thing that gets you out of that situation. If that's what you want in life, then perfect. There's nothing immoral, wrong, or whatever about doing that. But that's not going to give you the greatest fulfillment, I guarantee you. My observation of looking at people in the world that had the most accomplishments and fulfillment in life, they were out there serving people, and they had usually long life. Most of them had pretty long lives.
Well said. And also your team have given me a link for a gift from you, so I'll add that in the show notes. But where do people find you? What are you doing now? Are you going to be running live events again soon? Just a bit of an update from you.
I've got one coming up in Spain, another one in Germany, I think one in Vietnam, and then another one in the States. We're gradually going to do that as they do it. We've got another little variant that's driving around and causing a little bit of a snag right now. But yeah, we'll be doing some live ones and on Zoom. I'll do both. I'll do live and Zoom. As far as I'm concerned, whatever allows me to go and fulfill my mission, I'll do it. But yeah, there'll be some live ones again. Yeah. But the little gift that I'm offering is as awakening your astronomical vision. I did it in a planetarium in Johannesburg to a group of YPOs, young president organizations, entrepreneurs, and it's a very inspiring presentation. We watched a video of the universe, and then I did a program on how to activate your vision to expand, to play globally in your life, to give yourself permission to play. Because of the internet today, there's no reason why you can't have global life. And so it's a gift. I guarantee you, you'll listen to it. You'll probably listen to it 5 or 6 times, but it's an inspiring hour-and-a-half presentation on how to have an expanded vision, because you're not going to outgrow your vision. if you want to make a difference in yourself, you need a vision as big as your family. You want to make a difference in your family, you need a vision as big as your community. You want to be number one in the community, you need a vision as big as your city. You want to be number one in the city, you need a vision as big as your state. You want to be number one in the state, you need a vision as big as your nation. You want to be number one in the nation, you need a global vision. You want to do something globally, you need an astronomical vision. So it's a how to wake up the astronomical vision. It's a gift for anybody that wants it. Hope everybody watches it or listens to it. It's an eye opener.
And for me, I want to thank you for the opportunity to have you on my show again. We wanted to really bring together some real life examples to help people that really need some help right now. And if tens of thousands of people listen to this episode, we can sort of make a difference in the world. So I want to thank you for taking the time.
Well, you already are making a difference. You made a difference in my life and you helped me reach people. So we're both working together towards that difference. So there's no doubt that there's a difference being made. So thank you for that. Thank you, Craig.